so this is probably a review for you all, but nonetheless, sorry, let's review it. So we're going to solve a system of equations by graphing. So a system means more than one equation. System of equations means more than one equation. And we're going to solve it by graphing. So we're going to find where the points intersect, where the two lines intersect, and to give us an individual point that will fit in both equations and make them equal. So we're going to remember, like I said, where do equations intersect when graphed? We're going to graph them. Equations are in slope-intercept form, which is y equals m x plus b. Now, if we remember that m means the slope, so m is the slope of the line, and b is the y-intercept of the line. So the slope shows how the line moves, how it goes from one point to the other. Remember, up 1 over 2, up 3 over 4, up 5 over 7, down 5 over 8, down 1 over 1. It depends on what the slope is, right? Which is a fraction. The b is the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y. And here's the y right here as a reminder, right? This is the y, right? It's the axis that goes up and down. This one that goes side to side is the x, but the y is what's important here. So let's identify our m and our b in this equation. So if you notice, m goes right after the equal sign and before the x. So m is between equal and x. Well, on this first equation, what's between equal and x? Well, that is 1 over 2. So this is our m. And b is always at the end of the equation, right? And in this case, it's 4, but it's not just 4, it's negative 4. So that is our b here. So we always start with b. Start with the green, right? Green means go. You always start with green. So b is negative 4. B is the y-intercept. So on y, where is negative 4? On this axis right here, and negative 4 is right there. So I'm going to put a point there. Now, I'm going to move, right? I'm going to move, and the slope tells me how to move. So this slope says 1 over 2. So positive 1 means up 1. So I'm going to go up 1. Over positive 2 means to the right, right? The numbers are positive to the right. 1, 2. Now, that is where my second point goes. Now, I'm going to take a straight edge here, and I'm going to connect them. And let's say that. And that is my first equation right there. Right? So I do the second thing with the second equation. Now this one's a little tricky because look, again, m is between equal and x. So what is between the equal and the x here? Where it's just a negative. But remember, what kind of negative? What's invisible there? Exactly, you guys got it, -1. So this is really just a -1. But to make it a fraction, I put -1 over 1. So this is my m here. Now my b, again, remember my b is always at the end here. So what's at the end? 7 is at the end. But remember, it's a -7 here. That's my b. So we always start with b. B is my go. Green means go. We start with b. So we're going to look for -7 here on my y line because b is the y-intercept. So we're going to find -7, which is right there. And now we're going to move, and this slope is going to tell us how to move. So this says -1. -1 means down 1. So we're going to go down 1 over 1. Over to the right 1. And there is my second point. Like that. Now again, I'm going to take my straight edge here. And I'm going to connect these 2 points here. I'll go all the way over just like that. And I say arrow, arrow, because it's 2 lines. Remember, a line requires an arrow, right? So where do they cross? Well, they cross right here. Right there. So where is that point? Well, remember that a point is x, comma, y. So what is my x and what is my y here? So my x, remember, goes side to side. So where is my x here? If I go up, it's between -2 and -1. So I'm going to say -1 and a half. Comma, see, here's my x. It goes to right between -2 and -1. Now what about on the y? Well, on the y, it's -5. So the answer is -1, -5. And there you go. And that is how we solve. So if we plug in -1.5 in here and here, and we plug in -5 here and here, we're going to get the same answer on both. That's what makes them cross. This is where they touch right here, is what they have in common. So next I'm going to show you how you do that on Delta Math. To see how we're going to graph this system of equations. So the question says solve the following system of equations, which remember system means more than one equation, right? First equation, second equation. Graphically, we're going to solve it graphically by graphing on the set of the axis below. Okay? So let's start here. So let's start with this first equation right here. Remember our green, our y-intercept is +4. So I'm going to go down to the graph here, and on the y, I'm going to go down to +4. And I'm going to put a point there. Now if you notice, look, it moves around, right? So it wants to know where the second point is. So remember, our second point is between the equal and the x. So our second point is -1 over 6. Negative goes with the 1. -1 means down 1. Over 6 means over 6. So from this point here, we're going to go down 1 and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And look at that. It creates our point. Okay. Second equation, again, we're going to find our B first, right? Our go at the end is positive 1. So we're going to go to our graph and we're going to find positive 1 on our y, and it's right there. Now, what is our m? Remember, our m goes between the equal sign and the x. Our m here is 1 over 3. This is a positive 1. So I go up 1 and over 3. So let's do that. So from this point, I go up 1 and over 1, 2, 3, and I put a point there. Now, if you notice these two lines, they touch. They cross right there. So where do they cross? They cross on 6 is the x. X goes first. 6, comma, 3. 6, comma, 3. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to say parentheses 6, comma, 3, close parentheses, submit answer, yes, there we go. Here, let's do a second example. Again, it says solve the following system, right? More than one equation, 1, 2. Graphically, we're going to graph it on the set of axes below. So let's do our first equation here. Remember, our first move, our go, is always the last number at the of the equation, which in this case, it's negative 7. So we're going to go down to, on our y enter to negative 7. So I'm going to find negative 7 right there. There we go. Right? That's negative 7. Good. So we're going to go back up and we're going to find our m, our slope, is between the y equal and the x, which is 3. Now remember though, we need it to be a fraction. So what divisible number is under this 3? Exactly, 1. So this says 3 over 1. Positive 3, you go up 3 over 1. So we're going to go down to negative 7 and we're going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, oops, and over 1 to the right. And there's our first point. So let's do our second equation. Y equals negative x plus 1. Remember, our go is our y-intercept, which is our last number, which is positive 1. So let's go to positive 1 on our y here. Positive 1 right there. And what is our second point? Well, what are our directions, eh? M is between equal and x, which is a negative. But what invisible number is right here? Exactly, a 1. So this is negative 1 over 1, which means go down 1 over 1. So we're going to go from our 1 here, down 1, over 1. See? So where do they cross? Well, let's take a look. Let me zoom in here. They crossed right there. So we need our x first. Remember, x is this line right here. So what's our x? 2. And what's our y? Negative 1. 2, negative 1. So I go down here, parentheses, 2, comma, negative 1, close parentheses, submit answer, and there you go. And that's how you're going to do this assignment on Delta Math.